Hey, Rich Stoddard here. I'm at the PowerShell conference. Thought I'd give a report on the open speech and hope some of you guys would be interested. Sorry for the angle. Try to get a little more comfortable and make myself more presentable. The Don Jones got up there. He did a wonderful speech. He talked about the importance of feeding your career. There was a lot of stuff to go over, of course. I got my notepad here, so you have to forgive me if I'm not a newscaster. We got one of the things he made up is all the businesses are all a little different. Here is a lot of the, well, we do things differently here. Well, that's all businesses, so you need to do that. Now, as he's an advocate of training, and Pluralsight is his company. He works there. I think he owns it too, but I'm not sure. So there's a lot of things you need to do. You need to think about your career, not just your job. You need to go out there and advance your skills, and you don't have to be an expert on everything. And the whole concept of the monolithic engineer that only focuses on one thing in the IT world is not going to be the thing you want to do in the future. He was talking about the fact you should get books, courses, and develop a lot of familiarity with key technologies that are coming down the pike. Obviously, the one's the cloud. Everyone's going to the cloud. Now, I heard at a training I went to that a lot of companies they're taking their engineers in, bringing everything to the cloud, and they just lay off the engineers they don't need anymore because they can bring in people with cloud training. So you don't want to be the one that's behind the times. But your boss has got problems, and he's going to want solutions. And if you get some familiarity to it, you can address. Oh yeah, well, I can help with that, and that's going to give him a leg up, and he can make more valuable and more bank the more powerful you are. We talked about certain technologies that could list later on. All of them are, very common and popular these days. And we talked about how PowerShell is managing and controlling these technologies. So what you need to know is, okay, how these technologies work, what's the big overview, and what are the big issues. So go out there and study. Don't lay back, and you'll be faster than the next guy. You need to learn about DevOps tool chains and how the software in a lot of companies is being continually developed. You're not able to do 6-month cycles anymore, but we're looking at web apps and they're getting updates and changes. And in industries where I work, it's constantly challenged to keep up both of the customer needs and the changing regulations and all the different states or provinces or divisions or organizations, legal concepts that have to be kept up because you're dealing with larger customer bases. You're going to be able to do that. Agile development, all the software has bugs. Just keep fixing them, bite off little things at a time rather than a major project. Although I think you have to have a good overall architecture, and your team needs to be thinking long term about where they're going and if their infrastructure can handle it, and at what time they should dump the old stuff and go to the new stuff. Be ready for these technological shifts and get rid of the old baggage. I guess that's my input. The Linux and Windows administration, if you're in one camp or the other, forget about the R wars. Neither one's better than the other. They're all good for something. So maybe it's just good for the fact that it's doing the job and it needs to be maintained and managed. So keep familiar with that. He made a big point about Python. So I was flipping through trying to get the right name down. He said it's a language very different from PowerShell, and you have to kind of get your brains wrapped around different things. So get familiar with Python, according to Don Jones, and he did a great presentation, very inspiring. I just have a pale shadow of it, but go out there and develop the new technology. My thing I picked up from Don Jones last year is whip it up a toot. Go out there and try it. Set up a sandbox. And Master House setting up sandboxes are good because that's where you get things. I mean, if you've gone a training course, somebody set a sandbox up for you. So you've done that, worked with it, and know what they are. So it gives you the ability and willingness and capacity to go try do things. Setting up sandbox, you want to load data in it and you want to be able to do things. One thing you might think of, a corporate situation or you're in a small business, build a sandbox up as if you had to replace production, replace a system that's going. If you can do that, you can record your stuff. You can tell your boss that you're working disaster recovery while you're training yourself. You tell him you're learning the product. I mean, he'll appreciate that you can better support him and you're developing. And if he doesn't, he needs to learn that this technology business is constantly changing and you need to keep up with it. And I think most reasonable managers will understand you need to keep up with what he's doing. So if he doesn't, well, go get yourself a copy and a croissant and don't worry about it. They're talking about containers, they're talking about PowerShell core, they're doing a lot of technologies out there. You're dealing with the cloud, don't try to master every service they provide. Try to get the big overall picture, get the idea of, we're moving away from infrastructure as a service and we're working to processing and more abstract concepts where you no longer need to take care of the operating system. You don't have to worry about patching and a lot of these sniggling little problems that keep coming up. People like Microsoft, AWS, IBM Cloud. I think there's probably a bunch of others that I'm missing that are providing this service. In the old days, it was, I'm a ASP or an ISP, and I'm providing network connectivity, I'm providing application service, providing machines. Well, yeah, if you want to keep up with the servers and our good little workstations here, do need maintenance and attention, and if that's your bread and butter, taking care of them, learn these power tools and PowerShell. There's a lot of stuff out there that gets around security issues by making things more available. Make sure your security people you're working with is be friendly with them and talk about how the technology isn't holding still, and companies like Microsoft are building security into and being very security conscious with PowerShell. While they may have on their checklist is this is a vulnerability, they have to think is, well, this may also be a security asset if it's a more secure way of doing things, if it's well logged. PowerShell 5.1 and PowerShell 6.2 aren't PowerShell 1. They've advanced quite a bit. A lot of thought has been going into and evolved along with the systems. So that's my security bent. I really wish they could have recorded it because it was great. I'm sure there's more I can put on here. Focusing on the culture of a company. We talked about how the DevOps and the CI/CD, constant improvement, constant development, or constant deployment. Okay, well, look up CI/CD, and if you don't know what it is, but I have a hands-on experience with it, and it does make life a lot easier. One of the focuses and people should think about, and businesses should think about, is it's not about, and technology is not about eliminating jobs. Everybody has that fear, but it doesn't pan out that way. Technology gives us more capability. It gives a company more competitive advantage. Any company that's improving itself and providing better service is a better company after improving itself. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, but be ready for them and expect them, and make processes where you can validate. And if you make a change, make sure you have a method to back it out. If it doesn't work out, and you can try it again next week when you learned from the experience. Obviously, there's development boxes and there's sandboxes, and there's alternate systems, parallel systems. You have one that's under development. Then it can be when everybody's happy and it's doing what you want, you can switch it into production and flip flop back and forth. And the cloud that allows you to build servers and build software and systems, create them and destroy them, as you need. This becomes a more tenable thing to do, because you can stand it up and you can like it or dislike it, and you can break it down and start over. Big things talking about infrastructure as code. So rather than being, server in the rack and the data center, and you've got this big upfront hardware cost, as was when I started my career on the 2000s, as virtualization and the cloud technology brought about the ability to stand it up, test it, switch it in, switch it out, and you're not thinking that this is my one precious thoroughbred pet server, but it's just another one. You want to build out a server, you want to be able to do it through automation. Whatever your pick is, PowerShell is great for that, and that's why I'm at the PowerShell conference, and I'm making a reasonable salary. Inflation is making it less reasonable every year, but it's a good job. I mean, I'm going to be around for a while, and I've got a clear path ahead of me, because everyone's going with better, faster, smaller, quicker, with more features, and that's gotten because of automation. Oh dear. Well, that's a signal for me to ramp up. One of the things is you need to communicate with people, make an effort, have a meeting with your lead, your boss, your manager, whatever, and just open the dialogue and say, hey, how can I help the business? Where can we bring technology in that'll make things forward? And be clear that, you need insight into the business, you need to help and communicate with them. So have a good day. That's all of 12 minutes and 30 seconds, and we'll hopefully get some more typed up and shared with your community here. Thank you for listening.